Hola, Mexico. Martin Duguiamas here from Moodle. I've been asked to speak to you again at the Moodle Mood, and it's my pleasure to do so. I'm doing it via recording this time because we wanted to make sure there were subtitles and that you could understand what I'm saying. So let's get into it. I will share my screen. Okay. So let's talk about Moodle in the future as well as what's happening now. And what's been happening now is chaos. As well as the pandemic, we've had also a climate crisis, which is increasing in urgency. We have human rights issues popping up. We have deregulations happening as a sort of trend where companies are getting more control over the commons, working with governments. We have the problem of fake news. So it's harder for everyone to find out what is really happening because there's so much news with so many agendas. We have recessions happening and also in some places now booms, which are causing their own problems. And we have continuing political upheaval, very interesting elections happening around the world and conflicts between countries. And lastly, but not least, of course, is our education crisis that's been happening lately. And here is the picture of that from UNESCO from just over a year ago in April. And at that point, there were 91.3% of all learners were out of school. Now it's about 10%. But still, it's been an enormous hit to the world to have this happen. And what our part has been to, what we've been doing at Moodle is to be involved with UNESCO, helping out with these kinds of problems, working together with the consortium, the Global Education Coalition. And that's been very interesting over the past year as we work with many countries. And Moodle is in a lot of countries. We are currently now at about 193,000 sites. With some very big numbers of use. And a year ago, just before the pandemic, there was only 100,000. So that's how much we've grown in registered sites in that time. And if you look here at the countries, you see Mexico is third in the world in terms of Moodle users. So congratulations, Mexico. We love you. We're glad Moodle's being helpful, and we hope we can continue this. We are also widely used around the world. This is just in higher education, and you can see in many continents the last numbers that we have from January 2020, where the Moodle was very used in everywhere. Now, let's step back a little bit. I want to just talk a little bit about what is Moodle. So Moodle's often compared with many other things, but what Moodle is very good at in particular is being a flexible toolbox that empowers you to build your own education platform. And that platform teaches the way that you want to teach. So it's like a Swiss Army knife of tools, we sometimes say, or a Lego box. It doesn't just do one thing, it does a lot of different things, and you need to configure it appropriately for what it needs to be used for. But the main use that I had in mind and the main design goal for Moodle was to support the idea that learning is a social construction, that we learn from each other, that we aren't just learning from textbooks. If we were, we wouldn't really need Moodle. You just send out a textbook. But we know that people actually learn the best when they are creating or constructing a representation of their learning for others. So when they are making something for others, that's when people learn the best. And Moodle has many, many ways to have students doing that. And that's really, if I had to say one thing from this whole talk, if you are designing courses or building Moodle sites, to think about how do your users create things, and that will lead you down the right path. So let's talk about Moodle product news and some of the things that have been happening lately. We work in three main areas. We work on tools, we work on resources, and we work on skills. So first, let's look at the tools, and we'll start, of course, with Moodle LMS. So we released 3.10 end of last year, and 3.11 just very recently, and we are working towards 4.0 as the next big release. And I'm going to talk a bit about those. So 3.10 had a few nice things. We're only focusing on smaller features, mostly coming from the community, because we have been working on 4.0 in the background. And in 3.10, I'm sure you know, there were some good improvements in course content and H5P and so on. 3.11, which just came out recently, has the student activity completion. It looks like this, and it's much improved. That came from the Moodle Users Association. We also added a new accessibility tool so that you can check all of the content for accessibility. And if you want more advanced services, you can get those from Brickfield. And support for Open Badges 2.1. I think we're the first LMS to support Open Badges 2.1. But really, the big thing that most of us are working on here is on 4.0. Here are a couple of glimpses of the prototypes. You're going to see more and more of these coming out as we finalize, because there are many moving parts and they all fit together. But the main changes are around navigation, around the clarity of the display, and making it a lot easier for new people, but also for experienced people to actually get things done as a teacher, as a student, and as an admin. So you can see from some of these that, for example, inside the courses, on the left here, you'll see that now the default navigation of the course is the outline of the course. So we call this the course index, which shows all the sections and the activities that are going on. Well, so, and of course, it's going to be very focused on making it look a lot better on mobile as well. So when you're using a mobile browser, and that will merge together with the mobile app and a very similar sort of interfaces. Well, let's carry on. I have some problems here with the screen, sorry. Okay. So the next thing that's coming around the LMS is something called the Moodle Plugins service. And that is a new service that allows teachers to add plugins to their courses without having to go to the administrator. So if the administrator allows them, they'll be able to install plugins directly from the teacher's course through the Moodle Plugins database. It will be created for them out in the cloud, and then it'll be served back into their course through LTI, which means they don't need to install any new code on the server, but they can still use these exciting new functionalities. And there are 2,000 plugins in the plugins database, and a lot of very cool and exciting new features for using in the classroom. When this launches, and that should be next year, we're starting work on it this year, it will I think revolutionize what you can do inside Moodle. Another product we have, of course, is Moodle Workplace, and Moodle Workplace is focused on organizational learning, and it allows you to customize a platform inside a company for onboarding, and there's a lot of automations and 360 feedback and more. Now, this is not open source. This is a series of plugins that is built on top of Moodle LMS. It's only available through our Moodle partners, but this is a very popular thing, Moodle Workplace, and we have some very, very large organizations starting to use it around the world, and it's working out very well. So quite an exciting time for Moodle Workplace and the whole team. Our Moodle apps continue to develop. We recently added some new plans. I'd love to take questions on this, but I'm on a video right now. So I'm trying to explain to you that we have still the free apps, but we have these new pro and premium levels, which don't cost very much. These are costs for the institution, and they give students more features. So all the students connecting to that site will gain all these other features, and that you get more courses and more notifications, and you get branding and things like that. Right, let's move on to the resources, the sorts of things we provide to help people in the Moodle community. So the first one is Moodle Partners. Now, there are 2 Moodle partners in Mexico, Mprove, who are in course sponsoring and hosting this conference. So thank you, Mprove, for doing that. EduLabs is the other company that works in Mexico. And we have Moodle partners all around the world that work together, and they provide services for people who need advice, consulting, custom developments, or if you need to get Workplace, for example. Something that we're doing very new is we are creating a Moodle US. So we've actually been acquiring 3 Moodle partners in the US and bringing them together. And so the 4 of us are working together to create this Moodle US service. And that's the right thing to do in the US to be competitive against other services that are out there. And as always, our services are completely optional. The Moodle software will always be open source. But that's what's happening here in the US, and it's pretty exciting. So that'll be launching in the next couple of months. Moodle US will work together with our partners elsewhere in the world to provide a worldwide service network. And this is important because the thing that pays for the development of Moodle is mostly these services. All of these partners will pay royalties back to Moodle, and that's what pays our developers. We have one other service, Moodle Cloud, and Moodle Cloud has many, many thousands of Moodle sites running in it. They're not very customizable, but we now have some new larger plans since last November, up to 1,000 users. We've also introduced some infrastructure upgrades. So now Moodle Cloud is faster and even better than before. And you'll start seeing the UX changing. It already has in some places. And soon, as Moodle 4 starts to become available, we're hoping to offer Moodle 4 beta sites there, so you can try it out on Moodle Cloud for free and experiment. Another project we're building as a resource is MoodleNet, and this is a particularly exciting one for me because MoodleNet is our approach to a content solution. Normally, Moodle has not provided content. We provide the shell, the Lego block system, which you put your content in. But MoodleNet is our way for all of the MoodleNet sites to join together and for everybody to share content across that network. And hopefully we have a very useful system for anybody who's using Moodle, particularly if you're starting on a new course, that you'll be able to get the content you need. So what does that look like? It looks like this a little bit. This is what the interface looks like. So it's a place where teachers curate collections of resources. So it's not always Moodle stuff that gets uploaded into this system, although it can support that. A lot of the content will be things that are freely available out on the internet. But because teachers in those subjects are finding the best things out there and putting them in here, you will be able to also find them. So if you're teaching, on this screen, you can see boomerang throwing has been organized into a collection by this person. And if you wanted all of these resources in your course because you're teaching boomerangs, you can send them all to your Moodle site very easily. And that's the fundamental core feature. So this should be available in the next couple of months as a first version, and we're launching that soon. We've been working hard with a new team on that. You may remember that it was already due to be released last year, but we've really changed the development approach and the look and feel, and so the new version is coming out this year. And we also have Moodle integrated plugins, so certified integrations, and we have a number of partners who provide those, and we have certified them. And we have a new one that just launched very recently, which I mentioned before, which is Brickfield. And these new accessibility tools that are now built into Moodle 3.1 is a particularly good integration. It's so Moodle by default has a lot of functionality now for checking this, and it will fix common accessibility errors. And that means that your content, your courses will be working better for people who have various different needs for the way they need content presented. So that's some of the development partners we've been working with and some of the exciting things happening there with the resources. Now, the last thing I want to talk about here is Moodle Academy. So in the past, we've had a Moodle education team, and they do a lot of really interesting things. They provide Learn Moodle, MOOCs that run twice a year to teach people how to use Moodle. They've also recently produced some self-paced courses. There's one called Moodle Teaching Basics, Moodle Teaching Next Level, Moodle Admin Basics, and Moodle Plugin Development Basics for developers. So and on top of this, we also have what's called the MEC, the Moodle Educator Certification Program. This is a certification based on a European standard of 22 competencies, which cover all of the things you need to know to be a good educator online. And these are not Moodle features. These are things like professional collaboration, or how do you select digital resources? How do you teach your students to solve problems? Things like that. So we have a certification that takes you through how that happens on Moodle, and tests that you know how they happen on Moodle, and you get a certification, which looks something like this. And this is offered through our partners. 28 Moodle partners are now certified to run the MEC, and it's available in 10 languages, and of course, Spanish is one of those languages. But what we're doing now is to take this certification and all those courses and bring them together into an online academy. And this new online academy is a place where we really want to push the limits of what is possible with Moodle. So we want everybody to experience a really well-designed Moodle site so that you can see what is possible with the latest features inside Moodle, that you'll be able to learn everything you need to know there about internet-based education. And that's for teachers, for administrators, but also designers, so like instructional designers, and developers as well, because we have a need to train and certify a lot of developers all the time. And so we really want to create a Moodle learning community that we have everybody in there working together to find the best practice, to work together through events and through these courses to teach each other and certify each other as to, the best practice. And we can all become experts at teaching online, or doing whatever it is around creating a Moodle course or any online course. Our events will be there. So these events are going to be happening a lot. So currently we have 10, 15 Moodle Moots around the world, such as this one. The Moodle Moots usually face-to-face, and there's some hundreds of people come for those. The Moodle Academy, when it's running in a few months, will be hosting these events on a weekly basis eventually, so that you'll always have interesting webinars, short events, things to come to and attend and be part of, with experts talking about specific topics. So it'll be like a Moodle Moot that happens all the time, all around the year. The very last project I want to talk about that we are building is what I've just got here as Moodle Next Generation, but this is for us all to think about. The current Moodle software is not going to last forever. The PHP-based application and the way it's designed is not going to be around in, say, 20 years, right? It's the world is changing quickly. The internet is changing quickly. And I think it's time for us to really sit back and look at the technological developments that are happening. Let's look at AR and VR, virtual reality and augmented reality. Let's look at the different devices that we have now, the ones that we're using all of the time. Let's look at how we connect to the world now and where teachers are and where students are. They're not always in the same classrooms and so on. There are technologies like blockchain that also allow a very decentralized sort of model. And there's all kinds of things coming along the way, such as, well, let's look at this, up the top here, the communities. We now have communities of learning growing everywhere. If you look on YouTube, you'll see around each YouTuber a small community of learners popping up. And that community are from all over the place and they don't really know each other. But this idea of communities of learning is really popping up everywhere. And I think we need to really be thinking, how do we integrate the research in a field with the new people coming up in a field and really connect those things and build a community of learning around particular subjects. Open skills. So if you learn something somewhere and then you want to get a job in another part of the world, how do they transfer those skills? How do we know that the skills you got somewhere else make sense? And so we need to really think about how we connect these open skill frameworks into the education environment. A big one here, it's a very small word, but it's a very, very, very big concept, is artificial intelligence. Now, I'm not of the opinion that artificial intelligence should replace teachers. In fact, I fight that concept, and I really think that would be a very bad idea. However, I do think that artificial intelligence is going to be like an assistant for all of us. Learners and teachers and admins and developers, we are all going to have more and more artificial assistants that are helping us do our work and do it more efficiently and do it better. How do we bring that into education? And I don't think we should let that creep in through, say, some profit-based focused approach from some company. I think we need to think about it as educators and say, what do we want to happen? What do we want human beings to be in the next generation? And how do we integrate things like AI into the process, and also to prepare our students for a world where there is artificial intelligence? And lastly, this sort of mind interfaces. Now, this sounds really out there, but it doesn't really have to be wires in your brain to get a mind interface, although people are working on that. But something you can see is that the computers now are able to pick up a lot about what we're thinking and what we're doing by looking at all of the evidence, by looking at how we touch devices and how we use things and when we're doing things. You're able to, through machine learning and patterns, able to sort of understand a lot about people. And we should use that. We should make education fit in with the student's life, not make the student fit into the institution's life. And this kind of understanding of each user is going to be very important in the future with education. So these are the kinds of things we're thinking about. And this, I believe, we should do a new platform. We should start from the bottom and think about all these things and how do we build them in the most open, the most sharing way that we can. So not as a product that is owned by a company and sold to people, as most software products are, but instead as an infrastructure for universities, schools, learners and teachers into the future. Something that's really open, that is controlled by the community, controlled by the world, is able to be shared and it can be a common platform. And I really think there is nothing like that right now, and there should be. So I'm starting this project, not really as just a Moodle project, but I would love to find collaborators from other institutions or other organizations that are around the world that are thinking about these sorts of things. And let's work together and see what we can do to make this a reality in the next 5 years, the next 10 years. Well, that's me, and I know it was a lot of information. There is still plenty more I could also talk about. Really, the main one is that the Moodle community is very, very important part of this entire Moodle project. As an open source project, we rely on the community to be part of things, to help tell us what they need, to test things out, to use Moodle with students and think about what things should be. And I think that's what we need to do as a global education community, is to work out where we want to go. And there's many, many ways to engage. Moodle.org on the new website coming soon, directly through email or Telegram or other chat. Engage on the tracker as well, and share your ideas, and let's work together. That's the only way we can create an education infrastructure that can help solve some of these big problems in the world and bring the human species together, help us function better, help us look after our planet, and just generally look after our future. So thank you for being part of that. Maybe one day I can come to Mexico, I hope, again. But in the meantime, bye, ciao, see you then.